Here we have the most recent offering from Moog. It's another of their 60 HP format modular synths, and this one comes in from left field with a really interesting and unique take on generative synthesis. That's really quite simple to use to get beautiful sounding polymetric semi-random sequences once you got your head around it. Or if it hits on something you particularly like, you can stop the bit corruption and hold it steady indefinitely. And all this will become obvious once you understand what's going on. So like the others, it comes packaged with 5 patch cables, and of course you can take it out of this case and put it into your Euro rack. And although it's simple once you get your head around it, it took me a while to figure out what was going on. But then I did get sent this by Moog before the manual was produced, so I've not yet seen the manual. And it was a bit of a fun challenge actually, trying to figure out the signal flow. But it's really quite ingenious and deserves to be called the Labyrinth, because even though we've only got 2 oscillators, there's a myriad of different ways of mixing them through the filter and the Wavefolder. And add to that the ring mod, the FM and the different noise colors, you've got yourself something that you can create really complex tones on that can be sequenced really simply. And that might at first all sound a little bit confusing. So I set myself another little challenge, and that was to describe it in just 3 minutes. The Moog Labyrinth in 3 minutes and 3 seconds. It's essentially a synth and a self-generating sequencer. The voice parameters are set over here on the left. We've got 2 oscillators with FM, ring mod and noise, so there's plenty of range for lovely, complex, clangy FM and percussive tones. And this signal is then split into 2. It goes to the Wavefolder and it goes to the filter. The wavefolding signal is adjusted using these 2 knobs here. This wavefolded version can then be routed to the filter as well, and using this switch here we've got parallel and a couple of series modes. So we've got this complex oscillator plus the wavefolder both going into the filter in different routing modes, and then over here on the top right we blend between the wavefolded signal and the filtered signal using this knob, and that's the final output tone. This is modulated using a couple of envelopes. We've got 2 simple envelope decay controls on the bottom right. Envelope 2 is for the VCA, so for the volume, and envelope 1 can modulate the tuning of the oscillators, the wavefolding amount and the filter. The filter itself can blend between low pass and band pass. It's a lovely 12 dB Moog filter, and it's just got a really nice tone to it. All this is then controlled by this little sequencer on the bottom, and this generates triggers and note CV, and we can have up to 8 steps or up to 16 steps if we've got it in chain mode. And we select the length using this button here, so 8 all the way down to 1 on both. You set the trigger steps using the bit flip and the advance buttons for both the top and the bottom rows. So if we advance along, change the bits. These knobs here set the amount of randomness of the notes and the triggers, and this knob here determines the amount of VCO gain for each of the rows. So fully anti-clockwise all the way to the left, it only triggers on the active top row steps, and fully clockwise to the right, it'll only trigger on the bottom row steps. So anywhere in between you get different volumes for the top or bottom row. There are also various menu items accessed using combinations of these buttons, so things like the MIDI channel and the sync rates. For example, to set the scale, click this and that's changing between different scales, and we check the scale using this card here, and there's a little cheat sheet of the different button combinations for the menus. So number 4 is a pentatonic, which is what I've been using here, and this means that you can tweak the sequence CV range, and it'll change the notes while staying in the same scale. Same with the sequence 1 amount up here and there. So I think that sort of covers pretty much all of it. So let's have a little play and listen to what it sounds like. Those of you with Krypton Factor level observation skills will have noticed I never mentioned this knob here, and that's because it doesn't come into the signal flow naturally. It's basically a 2-channel mixer that you need to patch in to use it. And it's most simple, if we look here, I'll just unplug these for now. It's most simple, it's pre-patched to the ring mod, so this is a level for the ring mod, and out of UMix 1+2 we can patch in ring mod, and then we've got a level for the ring mod anywhere we like. But what I've done here is I've patched in envelope generator 2 and put that into the ring mod input. So now this is a level for envelope 2, and I've put that into the wavefolding amount. So this is now controlling the amount of envelope 2 that's modulating the wavefolder, which is normally, if you look here, modulated by envelope generator 1. So if I play this, by increasing this, I'm increasing the effect of EG2 on the wavefolder. And UMix 2 here is just a straight input. So this controls the level of whatever's coming into there. And if you've got something coming into UMix 2, that comes out of full level, and you just blend it in UMix 1 with this level here. I'm just exploring what I've been doing here a little bit more. Let's plug EG2 into there, and the output into there. In case you were wondering what I was using the key step for, it's got nothing to do with the Labyrinth actually. It's all to do with the MoogerFooger 104 delay. It's got some hidden functions in there that you can only use or only access via MIDI. So set this up to access the hidden functions. And the one I'm using here increases the delay time by up to 8 times. So if we play, crazy little glitchy thing that sounds nice. Yeah, so I shouldn't really have confused matters with that, but you know, it sounds cool, doesn't it? Let's take a look at each of the sections individually then, and we'll start off by taking a look and a listen to these oscillators over on the left hand side. If you take a snapshot of that, I've reset this so that we're basically just listening to the oscillators. So we've turned the wavefolder down, the cutoff's open, the bias is on 0, the VCF is fully open here, so we'll only listen to the VCF. I've got the wavefolder going into the VCF, so it's not parallel. So everything we're listening to is going through the filter. Resonance is down, all the envelope generator amounts are down, and the sequencer CVs are down. We'll turn those down as well, just in case. So oscillator 1 is looking like a sort of square, got a tiny bit of modulation on there, and oscillator 2, turn that down, is that the same? Although the top one sounds a bit brighter, whether it is or not, whether it's just the settings I've got on here, but essentially you've got two very similar oscillators. We listen to the top one, it goes from 20 up to 5 kilohertz. And the bottom one goes from low, so low frequency, basically an LFO, so I'm not going to hear it, so we get a bit faster. So we can blend them together. And we've got ring mod between them as well. So we could turn the oscillators down and just have the ring mod. And then we've got noise. And noise tone as well, so that's effectively a filter for the noise. So in this, there's loads of little things we can do. We've got FM amount between 1 and 2 as well. So let's modulate VCO1 with VCO2. And there's that LFO. You can hear it's not a symmetrical LFO, that. So is the shape changing as it increases? But look at it again. So there's loads to play with in these oscillators, and we can see we've got these little modulation knobs here. These are for the envelope generator amount, so that's envelope 1. So let's just turn that down a bit. Listen to VCO 1. Turn the FM down. So you can do percussive tones with this. And then we've got the sequencer amount as well. So that's to do with the sequencer down here. We can change the amount of modulation given off from the CVs from each of these steps. And we'll discuss that in a little minute. But effectively, if we turn these both up, they're both following the sequencer. We've got sequencer range down here as well. So when you play the sequencer, everything's following the sequencer, but not necessarily all in the same way. So that's nice, isn't it? That's beautiful. Pure randomness. Put the delay on. So maybe I should explain what's happening there so you can understand why it sounded like it did. So basically we've got the blend of the oscillators, and that blend of the oscillators is going to the filter, and it's also going to the Wavefolder, but everything is modulated by the sequencer 1 and the sequencer 2 amount. So what we've got there is the Wavefolder being modulated by the sequencer 1 CV amount, and that's why we can hear that coming in and out. Then we can turn that up to make it more wavefoldery, so it's more harmonic sound. If we turn the sequencer amount down, this isn't being modulated by sequencer 1 anymore, by this line. Turn it up. It's being modulated by whatever notes these are playing. If we turn this up, it'll turn this up as well. As well as it doing it on the cutoff. And changing the note on this. Turn that down. And that's the beauty of this, is that all those sort of nice things that sort of gel together and mingle round inside, and all the internal bits and bobs just create a nice overall tone, and it's really easy to get things like that working together. And the way it's doing that is because we've got all this stuff over on the left going into the filter, and we've got all this stuff over on the left going into the Wavefolder, and then we've got the Wavefolder either going into the filter or the filter going into the Wavefolder. It's all quite quite fluid, shall we say. So you can bypass the filter totally in parallel mode with the Wavefolder. So all this goes into the filter, the Wavefolder doesn't. And then you can have the Wavefolder going into the filter, or you can have the filter going into the Wavefolder, and then you've got a blend between what's coming through the Wavefolder and what's coming out of the filter. But what's coming through the Wavefolder can include the filter if you've got it down there. See what I mean? And once you've got this flicked up there, the VCF signal will include The wavefolding signal, so we're just listening to what's coming through the filter now. But it's changing because this is going into the filter. This is making a difference because we're just listening to the filter over there. We're just listening to this and it's not touching the filter. But if we come to this mode, then what's going into the filter is now going into the wavefolder. So listen just to the wavefolder. So there's just loads of different ways of things happening in there. Hence, again, a labyrinth. Let's take a look at this wavefolder then. Really simple tone from VCO1. And just look at all the harmonics that adds. Which is why we've got these two oscillators that don't have or aren't rich in harmonics to start with. It's very much a West Coast style thing, this, isn't it? With the wavefolder. We then have the wavefolding bias. It's actually a shame you can't modulate that anywhere. You can modulate the fold, but I can't see the bias anywhere. It'd be nice to have an additional LFO in this to do stuff like that. But that's the beauty of Euro Rack, I suppose. You can always add one. But then if we bring in a bit of FM maybe, so we start off with something more complex. We can wavefold that. So all sorts of clangs and whatnot in there. Or maybe the ring mod. Let's turn the oscillators down, just have the ring mod in there. There's an infinite amount of cool stuff you can do in this. Loads of nice effects, bangs and bangs, and as we heard earlier, loads of percussive stuff as well. The filter's very simple, it's straightforward and quite a gentle affair actually. It's not very resonant, it's 12 dB, so it's not your normal standard 24 dB Moog ladder filter, but it's got a nice tone to it. Turn the resonance up, we're not getting any screeches. So it's all very controlled. We're listening to just the filter, by the way, and the wavefolder's going into the filter. The switch is on the up position, and we go from low pass through to band pass. Which is effectively almost high pass up there. And by default, the cutoff is modulated by envelope 1, and the sequencer 2 amount, so that's the sequencer down here. Whereas the wavefolder is modulated by the sequencer 1 amount. So you can see how things just bounce around and bubble around between the things, especially if you think the wavefolder's being modulated by sequencer 1, cutoff's being modulated by sequencer 2, we can blend between them, you know, you can see how all the settings interact with each other. But I think it's time now to take a look at this little sequencer, as this is almost like the heart of it and it controls everything else. We've got sequencer 1 and sequencer 2, so 2 8-step sequencers, but these can be chained into a single 16-step sequencer. We can see only one of the lights is flashing now. 2 lights are flashing. If we play that, there's the 2 lanes flashing. We've got nothing changing at the minute because we've not changed these corrupt bits, so everything's static. But the idea behind it is that you corrupt it, and corruption changes the bits that are playing and the CV values of each of those. So corrupting 1, 12 o'clock, we're just changing the notes. The bits aren't changing. Go over 12 o'clock and we start to change which steps are actually playing as well. And we can go in and we can change these ourselves. We can bit flip whichever bit we're on. So that's being flipped. We can advance, bit flip that one again. Let's put them all on, shall we, if we can. Bit flip, bit flip, bit flip, bit flip. Here we go. So you can advance through the steps with advance. You flip the bit to change it from a 0 to a 1 or on to off or off to on with this. And if you shift it, you shift the whole pattern. So now all these will be playing. Put corrupt on and go over 12 o'clock, it'll start changing which steps are playing. There we go. And we can lock that in then by coming back down to 0. And if there is something you particularly like, you can save it to the buffer. But by bit shifting, the whole thing will move across. Sequencer 2 is exactly the same, works in the same way. Advance through the steps, change your bit, flip your bit, but you can see we're changing them both. But again, turn corrupt up and it'll change the bits as it's playing. Now you'll notice that we're only listening to what's happening really on sequencer 1, and that's because I've got envelope generated trig mix on sequencer 1. Put to sequencer 2, we're now listening to what's happening on sequencer 2. So go back to sequencer 1, and I can blend between this, which means that you're getting different levels between sequencer 1 and sequencer 2. Lovely rhythms. Then of course you might have noticed that we've got length as well. So let's change the length to 3 on one of them. And now let's corrupt all that again. Let's just get something nice playing around. But you'll notice we're not changing notes at all at the minute, and that's because sequence 1 CV range is on 0. Sequence amount's on full up there, so let's turn this up. So just lock that in with that. Change the CV range. And you'll notice again that's all in tune, and that's because I've quantized it. And again, as I showed in that little 3-minute demo, we've got the sort of cheat sheet here. So to change the quantization, you've got various things you can do. So the quantization, change sequencer mode, offset, buffer save, sequencer clear, MIDI clock divisions, all that sort of stuff. I won't go through everything here, but just to show you, hold bit shift and then move around, we can see up and down, we can see what we've selected. So I'll go to 4 again, that's a pentatonic, and that seems to work great. So everything's going to be in this pentatonic scale, means that you can change the range, but still keep things nicely in tune if you want. And as sequencer 2 is modulating VCO2 and sequencer 1 is modulating VCO1, we get different modulation amounts, so different FM sounds and different ring mod tones on each of the steps. Well, I hope that's given you a good overview of what's going on here, because it is quite a complex thing to get your head around, even though actually the sound process and the sound generation is quite simple, but gives complex tones. So everything's simple but complex on this. It's quite funny when you're trying to describe it as well, because you've got sequencer 1 affecting this, and sequencer 2 affecting that and that, and envelope 2 is only modulating the amplifier, whereas envelope 1 is modulating that, and that. As soon as you start playing with it, everything starts interacting, and again, that's the beauty of it. And as soon as you do start using it and trying to explain it, you understand straight away why it's called a labyrinth. I love this little sequencer down here. If you find something great, you can just lock it in, and it's really easy just to start finding nice things on it. As we saw earlier, I just put it down to a basic patch, and all of a sudden we had some really cool sounding stuff. And it does want to make you explore, it makes you want to experiment, get hands-on, play around with it. If you find something good, record it. You're never going to get it back, and that's part of the joy of these things. Well, I hope that was of some use to somebody somewhere. If it was, please subscribe, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon. This channel is supported by affiliate links, YouTube ads, and my wonderful patrons who, for less than the price of a coffee a month, get access to patches and samples, all sorts of other little goodies. And do also take a look at my starskycar.com website. Again, there's stuff to buy, there's patches, there's samples, there's free stuff. But as I always say, it's nice if you pick up even some of the cheaper bits and bobs, because it all really does help to support the channel. And thank you very much for everyone who stayed to the very end. I really hope this has helped you understand what the Moog Labyrinth is. And I will see you next time.